Hello everyone and welcome back to our show. Today is March 18th, 2021, and on this day in history, the War Relocation Authority was founded in the US in 1942. This service interned 120,000 men, women, and children of Japanese descent. Use this day to remember that violence and prejudice against any group of people is unacceptable and intolerable. We are all humans. We all deserve dignity and respect. This has been a Jack Tunney public service announcement. And with that being said, we have a great show for you today. Our sandwich will cover Biden's tax increases. So go like this video and subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to leave a comment for more content. Now, without further ado, the hosts of the PB&J podcast.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Welcome back to the PB&J podcast. My name is Peter Whitehead.
And my name is Brandon Blackman. I just want to start off with a thank you for Tunney for reading his first of many public service announcements. Want to make that a little more regular.
Yes, indeed. We like this day in history, so we're probably gonna continue that down the road and allow Jack Tunney to use that voice of his a little bit more. You know how it is. But let's just jump right into the first bite. We're going to be talking about a recent report from the intelligence community that says that there was indeed Russian interference in the 2020 election.
I think this is an important story because there is a lot of kind of people who say Russiagate is either 100% totally false or 100% totally real.
Yeah.
So I think that this new report kind of clears up a lot of those misconceptions.
Absolutely. It definitely does. And this National Intelligence Council is crazy. It's like all of our intelligence bureaus and things.
Every single one.
The Central Intelligence Agency, Federal Bureau of Investigation, the DHS, like all of it. They're all involved in this.
And what did they say?
Classified report. What they say is that Putin authorized, and this is in quotes, extensive efforts to hurt the candidacy of Joe Biden, which included trying to influence people close to Donald J. Trump. Yeah. So that's kind of like the headline of that report. Go ahead, Jack Tunney.
Wrong. There's nobody close to me.
I have nobody close.
I've brought myself to the presidency all by myself.
I'm in complete isolation right now.
And this is
it's not because of COVID. COVID's not real. Come on.
COVID's not real. The China virus.
And this is co-signed by, like he said, all of our national intelligence bureaus.
Yes. Yeah. This is a combined report of basically all of our intelligence bureaus.
The community, the intelligence community, as some might call it.
Yes. So the report did not specifically name people close to Trump that Putin was trying to influence, but the work that they referred to seemed to be about Trump's former personal lawyer, Rudolph W. Giuliani.
Oh my God.
Or
Melting Rudolph.
America's mayor.
Yeah. Oh, that's what he was.
Yeah. Who relentlessly pushed accusations of corruption about Mr. Biden, and that his family is involved with Ukraine and all that stuff about Hunter Biden. And so, yeah, there's no specifically named people in this report, but it's clear that, at least the big Rudy.
That story does kind of sound like some kind of Russian spin, though. It's like, oh no, Biden's the bad guy and Ukraine is the bad guy.
Yeah.
Russia perfect.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I've never seen it like that, but that definitely kind of has that taste.
Yeah, especially with, what's going on with Russia and Ukraine over the past 3 or 4 years is, pretty clear. But so this report, it represents the most comprehensive intelligence assessment of foreign efforts to influence the 2020 vote. Other than Russia, there was some other countries that tried to influence our vote. Iran, for instance, but China, and this was a big thing, if you remember, on the Trump side of people are interfering with the elections. They thought that China wanted Biden, and that's a popular thing that is said, is that China, Biden is soft on China, right? Remember that whole thing?
Yeah.
So it turns out that China considered efforts to sway the election one way or the other, but then decided against it because they ultimately concluded that it would fail and backfire essentially, which is what it did in 2016 for the Russians.
Yeah.
So
That seems like a good analysis of the situation.
Yeah. Also, a companion report by the Justice and Homeland Security Departments also rejected the false accusations promoted by Trump, you know, and his allies in the weeks after the vote that, you know, Venezuela or other such countries had defrauded the election, which was out of the blue. I don't know where they came up with that one.
Every time I hear Venezuela, I laugh. They've turned Venezuela into China. They treat them.
It's like they're like our enemy now or something. I don't know.
It's nuts.
It's also important to note here that no foreign actor attempted to alter the physical results of the election. So the actual votes. There was no attempt, not even an attempt to get access to the electoral systems, the ballot counting systems, anything like that. So,
Peter,
yes.
Are you telling the American people that whether we had stopped the count or continued the count, it truly had no sway?
Well, yeah, Biden won the election. There was no widespread fraud. I can say that with absolute certainty. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Because I've read this report and they say that in no uncertain terms as well. So
I like this report a lot because it seems like it's trying to clean up a lot of just the general, just like a lot of general knowledge that people took from a lot of this.
Yeah.
See, I like that they mention, hey, this wasn't about people stealing votes or anything like that, or any actual like election number fraud or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of a doubling down, I guess, of what they were saying before, that they are doing these kind of Facebook schemes and
these ads and certain story spins
and social schemes. Like the craziest story of all time to me is when they found out that one of the Black Lives Matter groups was started in Russia, and like a main group that they were like arguing with, like a lot of people from this Black Lives Matter group would go to like another group's page and they would argue, and the other group was also started in Russia.
Yeah.
So it's like these two out of state, parties, I guess, or groups or whatever. Like that was a real story. Like that's just nuts to me. And I'm sure that happens like a ton.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. I mean, Facebook, is a pretty unregulated space for the most part. So, people can create all sorts of stuff on there and you could spread false information, as they say. They're trying to take steps to change that, but it's a super useful tool to someone like Vladimir Putin, who's attempting to sway the hearts and minds of the American people in a certain direction. It's basically a key access to the American mind, is what Facebook is. So I thought it was really important that they clear some of this up.
Yeah.
I mean, the people who believe these insane conspiracy theories aren't going to listen to the intelligence community anyway, because they think the intelligence community is like part of the swamp, and it's not going to change anything in that regard. But I think it is important for them to put this to words and then declassify it in the way that they did. So
yeah.
But yeah, we can move on from that. It's just some quick stuff. Unless you had other thoughts.
It's definitely interesting. Not really. It's
a lot of the stuff we talked about some of this stuff before.
Of course, and it's just kind of like I said, doubling down on it. It's always nice to agree with the intelligence community. That's how I feel. It's always nice when I see a report and I'm like, okay, this seems cool. Seems like there's not a lot of bullshit in this.
Yeah,
I like that. So. That was
a great report. It's only 15 pages too, super easy read, and they like really paint the picture for you of what happened.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I think if you want to put some names to whoever they didn't want to name, you just watch the Comey Rule.
Yeah.
You'll get all the names.
Yeah. Because they can't name people, really, right?
Yeah, no.
Because that would be like a charge or an accusation or something.
Well, yeah. So the intelligence community is evidence gathering. They're not. They can't say this person is guilty of this.
Yeah.
So even if they have the evidence, like they can't actually actively say that.
That was the whole Mueller report thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, where they're like, well, I can't say whether he committed a crime, but here's all the evidence that he did.
But here's a lot of very suspicious shit.
Yeah.
There's like 50 pages of it.
Yeah, it's like imagine the detective versus the district attorney in some crime movie, right? Like the detective is figuring out who did the crime, but the district attorney is the one who is like actually charging them, right?
Yeah.
So that's the difference here. So you won't have you won't have any names or any accusations in here for the most part.
My last thing on this is that's why you have to kind of trust these institutions sometimes, just a little bit, because there are people in the FBI who truly want to solve crime and save people.
Yeah, I would think most of them.
Yeah,
right? You know,
exactly.
to go into a life of criminal justice and then to get as far as the Federal Bureau of Investigation, like you clearly have a love for that and you want to do that. I would think.
Yeah. So there's always something real under what could be like a authoritarian silencing, of course. So
yeah,
but we'll see. We'll see what happens next.
We will.
I now want to jump into our main story for the day. I think what I want to talk about today is what I think will be the next biggest story for the Biden administration, especially when you're looking at it in the context of Biden, being the anti-Trump and, removing all of Trump's agenda, all of the many things he did. So I want to talk about the Trump tax cuts and therefore the Biden tax increase. I think this is a big deal. We know that Trump's tax cuts lowered revenue by about $2 trillion over the next 10 years. So personally, to me, I think the Trump tax cuts is one of the worst things that he did, because we were already in a very unstable position, which I will show later. And the tax cuts only make an unstable position even more untenable. So I wanted to go to this article
Nice word.
Yeah. I wanted to go to this article from Vox, where they kind of sum it up in a really nice and easy way. Vox writes, on the campaign trail, Biden proposed increasing the corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%. And it's important to remember that the Republican tax cuts actually slashed the corporate tax rate from the Obama level of 35% to 21%, which is a giant decrease. As well as he plans to increase the income tax rates on entire families that make more than $400,000. I think these tax rates are extremely important because if you look into it, you'll find that most companies and most people don't actually pay their exact 21%. There is a lot of money that goes untaxed. There's a lot of tax breaks and just loopholes and all sorts of things that create what people call a gap in tax or like a tax gap.
Tax gap, yeah.
Yeah, so I think the actual rate that people pay is actually like 7% lower sometimes. So there's a lot of money that's just left. So even when the taxes are, being raised, there's so much money that people are basically hiding and not paying. He also, I'm continuing to read the article now. Vox writes that he proposed changing the capital gains tax, meaning how taxes are implied when someone sells an asset, like a stock mostly, for people making more than $1 million, so that they would be taxed the same as income. And that's also really important because there's a lot of, intricacies with selling stocks and selling, big assets. But a lot of the times people can sell and pay tax on an asset on like the value as it was like before when they originally bought it. And if the stock is rising in price, they'll pay the tax when it wasn't rising in price. So there are all these little loopholes for people to basically get out of paying their full tax share, and they're written into the tax law. So that first paragraph writes about how Biden is changing the personal tax. Also on capital gains, Biden proposed getting rid of taxing them on a stepped up basis after people die. This is another one of those loopholes. So it kind of has to do with inheritance and handing down wealth. Basically, people kind of only pay on their profits that they gain on the inheritance. This new tax law would basically tax the entire inheritance. Or if you just read the last sentence, Biden's plan would tax the full 1.1 billion instead of just the new profits made.
Right.
Biden also ran on expanding the estate tax, which is also essential to capturing, intergenerational wealth gone wild, if I can say that.
You know what the GOP calls that tax? They call it the death tax. That's their spin on it.
It is, but there's so like what that would be, and they say that that's going to affect like middle class people and regular people, which it's not. It affects estates, which are
huge.
I forgot exactly what the threshold is, but it's more than $1 million to be in the estate tax. So
Well, yeah, some people in the upper middle class could be affected by
I forgot exactly what the threshold is, but it's not most people.
Yeah, because I mean, over a lifetime, you could get up to $1 million in an estate. I think as an upper middle class.
Yeah.
I think, but it's not. It's certainly not going to affect.
If you live on the coast, yes.
Yeah,
For sure. Biden also plans to roll back deductions. This is important. He plans to roll back deductions for pass-through entities such as S corporations and LLCs put in place under the GOP tax cuts. So I think that is extremely important because, as we all know, a lot of corporations like to hide their money in shell companies, and that can happen, overseas, which most people hear about, that they hide their money overseas. But this can happen as easily within our own country. People have a business that does most of their business in California, but they have like an LLC in Delaware, which is like the lowest tax rate state. And they'll basically do all these tricks to move their money around and hide it to somewhere that has a lower tax rate. So, and like this says that there were deductions that actually encouraged this and helped this happen. So Biden plans to remove those deductions. The idea behind Biden's tax approach is to make the system more fair. And that was coming from one of Biden's former economic policy advisors. She says that it's not designed to be punitive to anybody, but it is designed to say that taxes ought to reflect our values. And right now, our system is a bit askew. Me personally, I would say it's more than a bit askew, but that's my take on America. Our system is askew, and it's because of how money is distributed and how the taxes work. Ahead of the 2020 election, the Tax Policy Center estimated that Biden's plan would raise $2.1 trillion over a decade. And like I mentioned earlier, the Trump tax cuts actually cut 2 point however many trillion over a decade. So this Biden plan actually is just a complete removal, an equal removal of the Trump tax cuts.
equalizing the damage.
Yes, it's amazing. And this is what we needed.
He's doing good work. This is what he said he would do.
This is what he said he would do.
Yeah.
And of course, we can mention how the corporate tax rate was originally 35, and now he's only putting it to 28.
Yeah, so a little bit more moderate than Obama. And
then I'll get into how this is not a tax raise. Like, this is actually less than it was under Obama, and it's actually less than we've had historically. And all of these different changes have just been basically taking money out of our country and giving it to individuals. But I'll get back into that more a little bit later. I really like what Janet Yellen said, who I did have some criticism for Janet Yellen before, so this is really exciting to hear her say, because this is something that I definitely support. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has indicated plans on the international front to start work urging the OECD, which is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which is this international economic organization that kind of equalizes relations between all of these modernized nations. And basically, she was pushing them to establish a global minimum tax rate for multinational corporations. The idea would be to stop countries from lowering their tax rates to attract investments. The idea would be to stop countries from lowering their tax rates to attract investments and business, and just perpetually undercutting one another. In her confirmation hearing for Treasury Secretary, Yellen said that she wants to work with other countries to try and stop what has been a destructive global race to the bottom on corporate taxes. And there is a lot there that is extremely important. First off, it shows that our country is beginning to understand the impact of multinational corporations on our domestic situation and on the global situation. Like I mentioned earlier, people move their countries. I've said countries instead of companies so many times tonight. People move their companies overseas, to get lower tax rates, and people will, there's always that rumor of like people will leave New York if they raise the taxes in New York, which is, total nonsense, because
you don't have money to get cab fare out of the city.
Nice. I like that. But it's like, I'm gonna always have my penthouse in Manhattan. We're always gonna have a warehouse.
You have a penthouse in Manhattan?
Okay, this is my capitalist voice. Should I get a capitalist voice?
Yeah, go to your capitalist voice.
What's your white man
Yeah,
voice?
I need to work on it. Honestly, I can't just pull it out right now. But you'll see it in the future.
Next time.
You'll see it in the future. But these people aren't leaving Manhattan. They're not moving their headquarters out of the city. The necessity of having headquarters, and it means that these people can't just leave countries. They can't just stop doing business in the United States. And what a global minimum tax rate would do is basically mean that even if they move, even if they try to basically sell their land and try to move around and basically manipulate the tax system, they'll face this global tax rate no matter what. So all in all, I think Biden's tax agenda is slowly, in some ways, progressive, but totally is a retraction on the Trump policy. It may not go as far as we want it to, but the fact that it's going to raise $2.1 trillion for the state that we were already planning on making, but Trump totally, set us off course. This is going to be important to basically, quote unquote, getting us back to brunch. This is going to be a very, very important piece of legislation that we need to support. And the reason why I think it's so important is because there's so many people, fear mongering around the tax increase. There's so much fear mongering, people saying, Biden doing the biggest tax rate since 1993. Oh my God, what are we gonna do? The liberals, that, and it's crazy. Yeah,
the liberals.
It's crazy because I've been seeing that headline from everywhere. I think every single headline I saw was that exact wording, and you just get
the liberals.
You say what you're gonna say, Brandon, but I want to follow it up.
You just get. It's easy to get misled, right? Especially when I run through it, it's like, oh, that's just stuff that Trump ruined, and Biden's just bringing us back to where we were. It's not. I cannot call this a tax hike. I can just call it. It's a redistribution. It's a realignment. It's a recorrection. It's
a lot of rewords.
Everything, but everything but what they're calling some kind of insane tax hike.
Yeah. I saw like a headline that it was like, oh, Biden increases like taxes to 1980s level of like, and that's just false.
Yeah,
that's just incorrect.
Yeah, and also when you look at a tax hike from 1993, wasn't that like post Reagan, post Nixon?
Yeah, that's Clinton.
Yeah,
that's
so
Clinton.
That's following a decade of deregulation and tax cuts. Yeah. So I'm sure.
Oh, it was 1993. You're right. That was the headline.
Yeah, I'm sure back then they were facing the same situation, following decades of deregulation. The Democrat comes in, he tries to fix things on a very basic level. Hey, let's do some moderate tax raises. I won't go as, I'm not going to raise it to 40. Let's do 28, which is, like you said earlier, more moderate than Obama.
Mm-hmm.
The Republicans still lose their mind.
Well, they profit off of outrage culture as much as the left does, dude. So
yeah.
Speaking of outrage culture, this is just working on it. It's a bit of a demo. Are you afraid of Daddy Biden reaching into your back pocket, taking your hard-earned dollars through taxes? You should be.
No.
Quick. Call your local official for no goddamn reason now. That's out to all the conservative commercial makers.
For the skits, we should do super PAC commercials.
Yeah.
This is funded by whatever, and it's just like outrageous.
That's what I'm talking about.
Outlandish shit, and then watch. We'll get some like conservative site to pick it up and like run it. And it'll just be us making fun of them.
Do you work in a coal mine in West Virginia, 40 hours a week, $8 an hour? And are you worried about tax cuts for
Did
people?
Trump not bring you clean coal?
Are you worried about people making more than $400,000 getting a tax cut? If this is you, please vote red.
Yeah,
just
vote for the elephant.
And they do
You've
these.
Been to McDonald's, right? Yellow, red. Well, red's pretty close to yellow, isn't it? Vote red.
It's funny because like they literally do stuff like that though. Like we're joking, but that's what they say.
They pick one thing and then they like try to connect it to another and then they slam it into your brain.
Do you tuck in your shirt without wearing a belt? Vote red.
Oh my god. Oh dude. Oh, yellow is libertarian.
Is it? Is that
yeah?
Like it's yellow,
kind of.
and then Republican is red.
I thought yellow just represented like all the third parties, but
I guess so. Well, then the Green Party wants to like put a green thing down because they're like, hey.
Well, of course, on their own maps they can paint whatever color they want. I'm talking about the national maps here.
It's in the name.
Green Party's cringe.
The Green.
Sorry.
Yeah, but at least they're not the like peace and love party or whatever.
I'm a little off topic, but
the PSL.
No, the peace and the Dove. The what is that one called? It's like Peace and Liberty or something like that.
Oh yeah, you're talking about it's like an East Coast one.
Yeah,
I'm bringing it back on topic in 10 seconds.
No, my off topic was shout out to Jill Stein going to that Russian meeting that one time.
Shout out to Jill Stein in general.
Yeah, we miss you.
Yeah, we missed when the most ridiculous thing about life was Jill Stein.
Yeah, true, man. True. That was a long time ago. Yeah, a different time.
Even our government teacher couldn't vote for her.
No, dude, our ridiculous government teacher.
Remember when people thought Jill Stein stole the election from Hillary?
You remember when?
No, it was gerrymandering.
Do you remember when Hillary Clinton stole her own election?
Oh, okay.
Back to the
too off topic.
That was a hell of a tangent.
We were making ironic jokes about Republicans and the things they say.
Brainstorming new ideas via the podcast.
That's what that was.
Let us know what you guys think about it.
And vote red.
And vote red. Don't vote red.
As we all saw.
Vote as you want.
As we all saw. I said this last week, actually. As the Democrats are passing COVID relief and stimulus, the Republicans were busy worried about Mr. Potato Head and Dr. Seuss.
Mr. Potato Head.
And usually ends up being like a constant within the Republican Party. And I think this is happening again. I'm sure we'll see it as we begin to talk about the tax increase and other sorts of things. Because, as we all know, there are serious, structural issues within our country that happen every day and that need to be solved mostly through raising taxes and putting them in the right places. So I kind of just wanted to talk about two huge issues that can be directly solved just by raising taxes, or that were directly caused by lowering taxes, actually, and how they can be solved by fixing that issue. First, I want to talk about... No, not yet. I'm sorry.
Aww,
yeah, I'm sorry.
I thought it was a great segue.
Yeah, no. The first thing I want to talk about is this New York Times article that wrote that homelessness is actually rising, and it has risen for the fourth straight year in our country. And this study was actually done it ended in 2019. So it actually doesn't have the updated statistics for post-COVID-19, which we all know.
Drastically increased homelessness.
Yeah, exactly.
It doubled it in the just in the city of LA. So.
And like I'll get back to later, LA is the center and can be directly solved by some of the things I'll suggest. So I just wanted to read directly from the New York Times. Homelessness in the United States rose for the fourth straight year, with about 580,000 people living on the streets or in temporary shelter at the start of 2020. According to an annual nationwide survey that was completed before the pandemic, like I said. So it doesn't capture the full condition of our current situation. In February 2007, when the first survey of this kind was conducted, the number of single adults living on the street was 209,000. So what that means is that in 13 years, our homelessness situation has not gotten better at all. It's doubled and maybe even tripled now that we are in a post-pandemic era.
Yeah.
And the numbers are right there. 1 out of every 6 homeless people, about 100,000 people are under the age of 18. So not only is this kind of like a societal housing crisis, but this is a youth crisis. Mm-hmm. 1 out of 6 people who are homeless are underage. This is, insane for a multitude of reasons: safety reasons, child trafficking kind of reasons, drug abuse reasons,
nutrition.
Yeah, and this is all due to
It's a minor one compared to what you said, but
yeah. But I mean, it's there.
Yeah.
Don't have money for home. You don't have money for food usually.
Good food at the very least, yeah.
Yeah. So, and this is especially a problem in Los Angeles. Anybody who lives in California or San Diego or LA, they know that developers around here focus on profit. They focus on high quality, I don't want to say high quality, but high class, I guess, residences that are going to be for elite people, for people who have excess wealth. And the problem with that is that, of course, people are going to be able to rent those places because people can afford them. But when you set the rent at a level where it's, $2,000 a month, there are thousands, millions of people who can't afford that, even if the market decides that $2,000 is the equilibrium amount where it's going to be profitable and cost effective or whatever. Even if that's true, the equilibrium, which is an econ word I've learned recently and I've learned to hate, the equilibrium set up by econ majors forgets that there are all of these externalities, thousands of people homeless. There are empty apartments. We've all seen the story about Manhattan, the thousands of empty penthouses, And what my solution to this is that the local and state governments need to rethink their priorities. And what that means is housing needs to be considered a human right just as much as progressives will say healthcare is a human right, just as much as water is a human right. Because the fact that people have to pay sometimes 50, 60% of their income towards housing basically leaves people on poverty levels even if they make more than minimum wage, right?
Absolutely.
So it's like, even if you raise the minimum wage, there's going to be all these people who can't afford the equilibrium price. So, and this is proven by the homelessness crisis. It's happening today. So housing provided by the state and local governments. I know that probably sounds, far left, probably sounds radical, but countries have done it around the world. It happens. Vancouver, for example, is one of the most livable cities in the world. They have social housing that is basically under the equilibrium price.
It's cold as shit, though.
I think Vienna is another city.
You're cold, Pete. Now let Brandon speak.
Vienna is another city that has what is called social housing, which is built and subsidized by the government. Rents are extremely lower than the market price. And basically what that does is it challenges the quote market price and forces these developers to basically compete with the state. And what that would do is lower the market price because there is this reasonable market price that's being sold by the government. And
y'all, that's good for everyone. Like, there are people out there, I'm sure right now that, I mean, you even mentioned it, that like are hearing this and going, and the liberalness and of it. But if you think about it, your house and the price of your house will be affected by that likely too, or your rent or whatever it is, like whatever it is that you're paying. If your developers are having to compete with the state, that's going to help you too.
Like I've said, everybody that lives in California knows that the housing market is not valued appropriately to what you're getting.
Yeah.
I've got a great visual for this. So if anyone's been on Instagram at all in the last couple days, it's probably not just me because I saw it on some other people's phones. There have been a lot of advertisements for electric bicycles. You've seen at least 200,000 of them. And they're all coming from they're probably the same developer, but they're multiple companies that are selling it. And they won't tell you how much it is, because when you go on the website, it's over $2,000.
Yeah.
Now think about it like this. These are very, this is a high-end thing. This is like a commodity, but we'll think about it as like, oh, we all need a bike to get around. If Tesla comes out with a $100 electric bike that goes 60 miles on one charge, that's immediately drastically improving as we said, the competition.
Yeah, and this big developer who's been kind of faking the price and kind of competing with himself which is what they literally do.
And that's what people complain about when they're like, oh, socialism and all that. It's like, well, no, because the game of competition has become a company makes its company into multiple companies
and competes with itself.
And I know it very well because I wear glasses. And
Exactly.
if you know anything about wearing glasses, you go to a glasses store and one company owns all 50 brands in that glasses store, and they hike the price 500% so that you'll pay for it because you need it.
Exactly.
That's why I spend $0 on my frames and I spend $30.
Exactly, Tunny. Exactly. Which is why housing cannot be something that's decided by
a
market because we need it.
It is a necessity.
That was a very good example, actually.
Thank you.
I like that. So I'm ready to move on to my second example, which is another hot and controversial topic that I don't think should be controversial, is our public schooling education, which is something I was interested to find out is also a direct kind of infraction, caused by tax cuts by Republicans for decades. And I wanted to start with talking about university tuition. As everybody knows, tuition has been rising for decades and decades now. And
400% from the time our parents went to school.
400%.
Yeah. Has the education gotten any better?
No.
Oh my God.
But that's what the conservatives will say, right? The conservatives will say, oh my God, they're spending so much on fancy dorms. Oh my God, they're spending so much on Marxist textbooks. Oh my God, they're spending so much on safe spaces.
I did spend a lot on Marxist textbooks.
But that's not the reason why tuition has gotten higher. Even if it was, it wouldn't be equal to the thousands and thousands of dollars that it's been increasing yearly, right? So I did some research and I found this great Washington Post article that I'm going to read from now.
WAPO.
And it's talking about Pennsylvania's reaction to the tuition cuts. Leaders at those 4 Pennsylvania schools blame state lawmakers for bringing their institutions to the brink of what would be a hefty tuition increase of about $10,000 at Penn State alone, and that was in a single year, actually. Since 2000, lawmakers have been chipping away at taxpayer appropriations to the Pennsylvania schools. Lawmakers have been chipping away at taxpayer appropriations to Pennsylvania schools.
Say that 5 more times.
Which have everything is important here. Which has seen their share decline by about $4,000 per student, right? Inversely, average tuition has increased by $5,880 per student over the same exact period. The story is similar in the other states. Appropriations to public colleges are cut, or at the best remain about flat, and the tuition prices go up. So this is basic math, right? Right? They take money away from the public has been subsidizing these universities because there's a public good in educating people, and universities hire people, they do research, they do all sorts of good things. They do community programs, all these great things.
Yeah.
So there's a genuine reason why we would want to subsidize these groups or corporations or universities, whatever you want to call them. Because conservatives will call them corporations, evil Marxist corporations. I'm trying to kind of argue against some of these arguments you might hear when you hear about tax cuts, good, and tax hikes, bad, right? Right. We see right here that the tuition is almost exactly related to the decline in tax funds appropriated to schools.
Yeah.
So the fact that people will say that tax cuts are good, it's just not true. Another good example would be high school, middle school, elementary schools, because people don't realize that there are tons of costs involved with going to these secondary schools as well. And that would be your food, your transportation, your extracurriculars. I mean, paying for field trips and those kind of things. All of these
paying for like band equipment and stuff.
Band equipment.
Yeah, sport equipment.
Theater students, choir students. We're all extracurricular people here.
Brandon, yeah. I'll throw it back to middle school, dude.
Yeah.
They were threatening us.
What?
Like, hey, like the principal, he's like, hey guys, like, if you guys don't do better on the tests, like,
bruh,
we're not going to have band, we're not going to have drama, we're not going to have all this.
See, that's
of your
insane,
test
but that's not
scores.
even his fault.
And
That's
like I
when that was
saw.
that was when Bush had No Child Left Behind,
Yep.
and the whole that whole system just like completely devastated the public school systems, and there like so much with the extracurriculars. People, you weren't getting funding from the state to do certain extracurriculars if you weren't hitting a certain standardized test scores on average in your students, and
then they're paying companies to make these standardized tests over and over again.
And there's this
instead of just centralizing it for themselves.
Yeah. So when we did Common Core, it wasn't even really Common Core, right?
Oh, I remember Common Core. I ripped pages out of a book and learned nothing. Good job, everybody.
The thing I wanted
wasted
to
more trees. I can't believe it.
Yeah, true. All those white books, just tons of books.
That book.
Oh, I don't know about all that. But I wanted to mention,
and I burned it because I learned nothing from that class.
There's this domino effect of, okay, school fails their test threshold or whatever, and then we defund them, and then they do worse, and the kids are unhappy, and they do worse,
and then the kids don't show up,
and then they defund them because the kids do worse, and then it's what is it, a catch-22?
No,
yes.
No, it's as Paul would say, it's a slippery slope. I don't know if you should do that.
Slip slope. Yeah, so not only does it affect like tuition, which is of course a very common discussion we're having in our culture right now, you know, debt forgiveness and that kind of thing. But we cannot forget that our art programs, our choirs, our theaters were all defunded, and as we all know, we've all personally probably had to donate a lot of money to do things we wanted to do in high school. And I mean, we even went to one of the most privileged high schools in the country, undeniably.
I
watched the what's it? I don't want to call it by what it's actually called. The student council, I'll call it.
What? The ASB?
Yeah, I was gonna say it. I remember watching ASB just smiling as they like take the money out of the theater department.
Oh, literally,
department, like just smiling
every time.
Like, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
And then our teacher, blessed Miss Hall, she would pay out of pocket for every show.
That's ridiculous, man. And she's making a high school teacher tuition.
Guess what? Guess what? I remember
salary.
This one too. They wanted her to work English classes.
Oh,
She
yeah.
said no, and guess what? Cut her pay.
Yeah, that was nuts. She's not an English teacher. She was like, I can do Shakespeare.
She got, this was the thing. She got her.
I remember that, dude. That was so nuts.
She got her teaching degree in English, I think, because back then, in like the 60s, there was no theater.
That makes sense,
teaching, so she got it as that, and that's why they made her do it.
Yeah.
But then she was like, I tried it once, and it's not for me.
The thing about Miss Hall...
I feel bad for anybody who has to teach anything.
Exactly. The thing about Miss Hall and teachers like Miss Hall is they do great work. Miss Hall was putting on amazing productions single-handedly most of the time. Like, literally with her doing most of it, and like she was awesome.
It takes one person to do something like that for a bunch of kids, but it takes an entire government
to cut her pay.
To get, I was gonna say to bring the people up, but that's better. Yeah, it takes an entire government to cut her pay.
But isn't that nuts? Like we both know that she was a great teacher. We both know that she did good work.
I had her for 4 years straight. I could tell.
But because of San Diego Republicans that have been defunding schools and begging for tax cuts.
I'm sorry. Remember that one map we looked at that was like, hey, how many reds and how many blues we got going on in the Californians? It's like,
yeah, no, it's
like 93% blue.
Yeah. Well, we have a supermajority in our state assembly.
And then because you have to think about it sometimes when they think a little babyish. Because they look at the map and they say, there's way more red on this map than there is blue. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
This is good. They would say, this is just math, and then they wouldn't read the numbers. That's what I think about.
Yeah.
But, I mean, a lot of local governments are still kind of Republican, not dominated, but they have a sizable representation, especially like in local towns and maybe some towns.
A lot of the city councils are conservative dominated, especially here in Southern California.
So that's how you end up with no buses in one of the richest counties in the state.
That's
right.
That's exactly how that happens.
That's how you end up with more homeless population, and then they're like, oh, what are we going to do with this money? And then they buy more police cruisers and slap a
Yeah.
homeless outreach sticker on it, as if that's done
Oh my
anything.
God.
Yeah, I mean, on top of that too, with like the all the efforts to like make it harder on homeless people, like the anti-homeless infrastructure,
Oh,
all that
God,
stuff.
We've
dude.
been over this 100 times.
Little
already
evil
because
shit.
because of where you've lived.
Yeah,
I
it's.
saw it.
Oh, I mean, yeah. You drive through Santa Monica. There's not a bench you could sleep on anywhere in that city.
Literal evil shit.
I
Yeah,
don't even want to sit on those benches, honestly.
yeah. I don't. I rarely sit on benches. I don't know why they're protecting that for me. Like I'm,
And it's crazy because you'll hear people say, just arrest them, just get them off the streets, just put them somewhere, just get rid of them. And I mean, that's literally fascist talking points if you're just going to arrest people for no reason, arrest people who are in need of public support, which is usually left-wing support, and then they are easily willing to, kill these people if they could, if it was moral, right? If they had a just cause, which they don't. So it's literally just the dehumanization of homeless people, and then also in the same kind of wrapping this together, the dehumanization of students. It's your fault. Why did you get that debt? Why did you take that loan?
yeah. Why'd you go to school, boss?
Why'd you do that thing we kept telling you to do that entire time you were growing up? What's wrong with you?
Why'd you do that thing you had no option other than
Yeah.
there's no other way to get
Yeah.
valid credit in
Or you could work a job that's untrained and then you can be shit on by the establishment for the rest of your life.
that
Hey,
provides
So-
little
Those?
Yeah,
to no upward mobility.
yeah.
Oh, dude, I'll tell you this much. One time the city asked me to do this thing for like 10 hours for one day, and they were like, "Yep, we'll pay you $100."
10 hours.
This is a lot of physical labor for $100, but okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's below minimum wage.
Yeah. Wait, hold on.
No, there's a long story to it, but it wasn't bad.
Okay.
I was not being misused. I was volunteering.
Oh, I see. And they paid you to volunteer.
They pay.
No names are being said, but I was paid under the table.
Ah.
It was an unpaid internship that was very paid and unpaid.
They really needed a strong boy like me, so I was there. Don't trust the government.
To close out this segment on taxes and what we can expect from Biden, I just wanted to close with this study that was released at the end of 2020. And it's a 50-year study, which I think is pretty interesting.
Ooh.
I don't think it was like done over 50 years, but
It studied 50 years.
it studied 50 years of
okay.
tax cuts on the rich and its effect on the economy.
Because if they had done it for 50 years, that's
Yeah.
like solid scientific evidence.
I mean, you could. I think I still have it up. I tried to pull some graphs or stuff, straight from the.
Insider or what?
Yeah, it doesn't matter, but there were some graphs and like data from the actual study, and it was above my level. Honestly, it was above my level. I just gonna go with the mainstream article on this for sure. I tried to get a good snippet. It was some high level political science shit for sure.
Are you ready for it?
Economics.
But yeah, economics. But yeah, so there was a study over the course of 50 years that shows how tax cuts on the rich do almost nothing for the economy other than give more money to the rich. So let's pull up this Business Insider article here. Their findings. Oh, can you actually scroll up to the top? I'm sorry.
Oh, I did not even.
No, not that far.
Oh,
Large tax cuts for the rich don't. This is what the study says. The study says that large tax cuts for the rich do not lead to economic growth and lead to economic growth and more employment, but instead tax cuts for the rich cause higher income inequality, which is the new study that examined tax cuts over 50 years suggested. The recent paper by David Hope of the London School of Economics and Julian Limburg of the King's College London, which sounds like some pretty fancy
King's
smancy
College
stuff.
London.
Yeah. Those guys sound smart for sure. They found that tax cuts for the rich in 18 countries predominantly benefited the wealthy, obviously. Our analysis finds strong evidence that cutting taxes on the rich increases income inequality, but has no effect on growth and no effect on unemployment in the short and long term. The research is right.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big FU to Reagan right
That's
there.
a big FU to common sense, politics. Or not, maybe not common sense, but Republican and Reaganism for sure.
Yeah, it's Reagan. That
Skip that part.
I wish Reagan would have read that one.
This part is actually a direct rebuttal to that.
Oh, okay, good.
Their findings counter arguments that tax cuts for the rich, quote, trickle down to benefit other people, which the researchers noted have been part of the rationale for major tax reforms in the U.S.
Yep,
Like
Ronald Reagan said that exact phrase. We're going to work on trickle-down economics.
Supporters say that tax cuts for the rich can lead... This part pissed me off when I read it. Supporters say that tax cuts for the rich can lead wealthy people to put in more hours and more effort at work, which would just boost economic activity.
I like how you read it like that. Like it's like you're like the guy who supports tax cuts for the rich.
Our other arguments for trickle down tax cuts include that they'll allow wealthy people like me to invest more, and our investments will benefit the economy.
That's your rich man voice. You nailed it.
Yeah. I'm like that's my San Francisco rich guy.
Yeah.
Bro, I'm such a tech bro, and Google has saved so many lives, and you just wouldn't get it. And the study just kind of demolishes this fact, and the real life examples I showed earlier just destroy this argument. You can pull this off now, yeah. But as we can see, and as the studied scholars will say, tax cuts only help the wealthy. They do not help the economy. They don't help poor people. There's no trickle down. There is
also, I have to say, dude, that argument that they said where they're like, if you tax cut the rich, like we'll put more effort in, more hours, we'll work better, right?
Yeah.
That is like the same argument that people give for raising like the minimum wage and things like that. Like if you pay them more, if you make them feel like they have a standard of living, they will work harder and be more productive for your company.
Exactly.
Right? So these cats who are anti raising the minimum wage are using the very same argument to justify their own raises of wages.
True. Their own raise of wage. Good point. Yes, good point.
Just putting it out there. Putting it out there.
And they're saying that they'll put more work in, they'll put more effort in, they'll put more energy. Bro, what do? You look at stocks all day on the computer.
Irony.
Come on, what do you go on phone calls and have long meetings all day?
Yeah, it's rough. I wouldn't want to be in meetings all day.
Hard.
I mean, holding that phone up to your ear.
How do you work harder in that environment?
How do you work harder? How do you make more? How are you more economically efficient?
Right.
And the fact that they're trying to equate it, like you said, with the minimum wage, when you've got the tech bro who worked hard,
worked hella hard, yeah,
and he's trying to equate his work with the manager of McDonald's who works 40 hours, who is probably understaffed, underpaid, maybe has a second job, maybe has kids at home. The work that minimum wage workers do is ungodly unmatched by like the work of Bezos. I'm sorry. Just because they have more money does not mean they do more work. And I could talk about that for hours. There's so many examples. These guys have, made billions of dollars during the pandemic by doing nothing different, right? That contrasts the point being made in what the article was saying right there. These guys, they sell a part of their company, they sell some stocks, they make billions. There is no sort of working hard or physical labor. There's none of that that's equivalent to the, fast food worker, the retail worker, the labor worker who is a construction worker. That's why we need to raise the minimum wage. That's why we need to respect our workers. That's why we need to work on ending homelessness through these, public housing initiatives. It's why we need to make school easier for children and, young adults to go to by publicly subsidizing these, institutions. And it'll just have a gigantic effect, much like raising the minimum wage would. It would have a gigantic effect in raising the morale of people, and it would actually raise the effort and the willingness to be a part of the system that people don't feel nowadays. So
can I make a clarification?
Yes.
It's for myself, but also it's what I think people should also understand if having the government raise the minimum wage, but also limiting companies from aggressively raising prices and other things with the economy, because it's shown that whenever we raise the minimum wage, everything meets it. So I think we need to find a way to do that, but also make it so the companies can't just fill the gap and raise prices so it means nothing to the general economy. The inflation meets it. That's what's always been the problem, right? Is like inflation increases, we increase the minimum wage, but everything increases with inflation, so we don't get anywhere really.
Right.
So then a deficit is created and then it expands.
Yeah.
That's where the that's where the idea of raising taxes at the same time comes in.
Yeah.
Well, I say this a lot.
They can't go one after the other. They should go.
It has to happen.
I say this a lot to Brandon as well, because Brandon gets like pretty fixated on like specific issues, sometimes. But there you have to do a lot of these progressive reforms in tandem.
Yeah.
They don't work individually. So, for instance, like if you were going to do just the minimum wage, you're absolutely right. Companies would probably just raise the price of their products.
And they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you were to raise the minimum wage and then ensure that there's no, hikes on prices, predatory hikes on prices.
Yeah.
And then you also at the same time make school more affordable and healthcare, free for Americans.
Oh my God, people are spending money left and right. The economy's booming. I can't believe we did it.
So you have to do all those things.
All of a sudden, we have a sudden boom in doctors, homegrown doctors. Oh my God. Yeah. So you're right. All of these things have to happen in tandem, and they'll only work in tandem. So we can talk about this for a very long time, but that's kind of the problem with incrementalism, is that we'll get one thing and one half of a thing, and then we'll never get anything else. So that's kind of why I'm just trying to tie these things all together. I think that was my goal here,
I think you did a good job, Brandon.
Yeah. Tax cuts directly hurt people's lives and directly benefit only 1% of the country. And that's not me, making that up. That's not me making rhetorical arguments. It's proven by all of the studies and real life examples that I showed today. So hopefully you can take some of these arguments and throw them at your conservative family members and, show them that a better world is possible, and it's doable, possible and doable and feasible. And it's all right here. So believe in yourself. Because
stand up, America.
I'm going to keep going. Believe in yourself, because you need to educate yourself so you can get what you want and you can help other people, learn. And because I'm sure if you explain some of this to most people, they'll be like, oh shit, we need to change this.
Yeah.
But most people don't know. A lot of people don't care. A lot of people.
It's not, a lot of people don't know how to put it so eloquently like you do, That's why we do the show.
When you just talk for like 10 minutes straight and you're like, am I eloquent anymore? Am I still going?
Well, when I don't interrupt you to correct you, you're usually doing good.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed, and I hope that things go well.
Me too.
Yeah.
Speaking of things going well.
Oh yeah, it's time to get into the milk. My favorite part of the show.
This is also my favorite part of the show.
Last week, Jack Tunney's gonna start chugging it.
Yeah, he's gonna get back here, and we have to finish the milk before he finishes the gallon. Before he finishes his milk, we have to finish our milk before he finishes his milk. That's the challenge.
Milk race.
And there's no puking on camera.
No puking on camera. He can go off camera and puke, but then
milk race.
He's got to come back and
keep going.
Also, I feel like this is a good time to interrupt.
What's that, Brandon?
It's a good time to interrupt. We are still partnered with the SitRep Media, so we do plan on kind of evolving the show and kind of working in tandem with a website. So eventually we'll have a great website where you can get our videos. We'll also have articles on there. And
me and Brandon are going to write some articles.
And the reason I'm bringing this up now is because there'll be entertainment articles as well as political articles. So if you're interested in our takes and our opinions, we'll get that link out to you when it's ready. But that's kind of what we're working on next. So
absolutely. And entertainment. I'm thinking of becoming a full-time critic instead of doing this show with Brandon. So
full-time politics from me. So things are gonna get off the rails.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna still do the PB&J show, but Brandon and I will be talking about completely different things.
Back
at once.
Yeah, we're just gonna talk over each other.
I'm gonna get a nice.
And I'm gonna be talking about like the new Spider-Man movie.
Why is that so funny?
And he's gonna be talking about like the tax increases or whatever. And
yeah, I'll just put a big curtain down the middle of you guys. You won't even know.
Yeah. And then behind me will be like a bunch of comic books, and behind him is like just like cash.
We'll call it PB&J ADHD. It's just a bunch of letters.
Get 2 shows at once. No need to click off.
But yeah, so I'm titling this segment Peter. It's called Peter is excited for. Okay, and there's an ellipses at the end of that.
Who the heck came up with that name, Pete?
That was me.
Didn't run by me, did you?
No.
It has no alliteration.
I'm creative director, dude. I do whatever I want.
Not even catchy.
I do whatever I want. I'm creative director.
That's not a named title, by the way.
Peter is excited for. That's a fucking segment, okay? Get off my back.
There's not a role, by the way.
But Peter is excited for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That's what he's excited for right now.
The what?
The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I almost did the Falcon.
But yeah, so this 2 weeks ago, WandaVision ended. Tomorrow, the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier comes out. I'm living the life right now, guys. I'm drowning in Marvel content. Snyder Cut just came out. I'm dying right now. Like I'm so overheated with all of this content that's coming. But so I wanted to give some final thoughts on WandaVision because I didn't really talk about it on this show, and I love it. It was a very fun and interesting show. But more importantly, it was a character study on grief and coping with losing someone. And at a time like this, right? Like when the country is mourning.
Yeah.
Here is this show that comes along with the guise of being like a superhero, Marvel, kind of wacky, I'm going to do some sitcoms.
What I saw.
Yeah. And then they deliver this message of like what grief is and the beauty of grief and like why it's important and all these things. The line that sticks with me most is said by Paul Bettany's character, the Vision. He says, what is grief if not love persisting?
Damn.
And that hit me pretty hard. I'm going through some shit. It hit me pretty hard.
So it hit. Yeah. The whole show hit? The
whole show hit. And to me, it's the birth of a new Marvel era. Like here, they have shows now. They're producing different types of content. It's not just the standard superhero movie following the same pattern as Iron Man.
So was it full of explosions and fights? Wait, I don't know anything. You don't have to go deep into it.
It started, the first 3 episodes was a sitcom.
Yeah, that's kind of what I saw.
And it was a sitcom with twists, obviously, there was like a little bit of thriller stuff going on. Like you were kind of sussed out about what was happening. And then also later in the show, it becomes very superhero-y. There's like a big superhero conflict. And
okay.
So it's got like all of the things. It's like a kind of a scary show, a little scary sometimes. Pretty funny with the sitcom elements, and then really dramatic with the love and theme and grief theme, and then like a superhero kind of rock'em sock'em fight as well. So it kind of hit all the bases for me. That's why I'm excited about this new show, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I want to watch the trailer before I get into what we're going to talk about. I don't know if we can show trailers on this show, but we're going to do it anyway.
We're going to find out.
We're going to fucking do it anyway.
Oh, shit.
It feels like it belongs to someone else. That show represents a lot of things to a lot of people.
That guy!
Yeah, that's Sam Wilson. He's playing the Falcon, who is the new captain. His real name is Anthony Mackie, obviously.
Symbols are nothing without the women and men that give them meaning.
And that's the Winter Soldier, played by Sebastian.
To inspire us again.
Okay.
The world's more complicated now.
We're never gonna stop.
Yeah.
This world is ours. There's no going back.
It doesn't have to be a war.
It already is.
Ton of stuff.
Oh, dude. Oh, wait.
This is tonight. This comes out tonight, huh?
That got me kind of hyped.
Can't lose this fight. If we do this, we're gonna do it our own way.
Let's go.
So we're partners, co-workers, not necessarily a team.
See why I call it buddy cop? Yeah, he had long hair for like all of the movies. Now he got short hair.
We look damn good, though.
He looked damn good though. So yeah, go ahead, pause it, put it back up. Okay. So like that trailer's pretty high. Even Brandon's not a huge Marvel guy.
I'm
He was
not
getting
a
hyped.
superhero guy, but I like when people pull out the.
Yeah.
And then when he hopped off the truck and he got pulled by the wind.
Yeah.
That's the superhero stuff I like.
You should watch the show.
It's like, yeah, we took physics into account.
But yeah, so I think this is going to be kind of like a buddy cop show. It reminds me of Miami Vice a little bit, just in the way that it's set up. It's going to be very different from the kind of cerebral strangeness that WandaVision was. I think it'll be a return to the more worldly Marvel heroes, and it will be another chance for Marvel to just kick ass on the spy type shit that they do, like they did in the second and third Captain America films. On Sam Wilson, who is the new Captain America, played by Anthony Mackie, I expect that he's going to be reluctant and a little afraid of being Captain America, because it's a huge role to take up.
Definitely big shoes to fill.
Yeah, I mean, everyone loved Chris Evans. Okay, I'm not going to say everyone, but a lot of people loved Chris Evans, Steve Rogers as Captain America.
For sure.
So it will be interesting to see how Sam Wilson and Anthony Mackie, the actor, take which direction they take this character. I'm also sure that there's going to be some race discussion in this. This is a black Captain America. In America, the real one and the fictional one that they inhabit, there are going to be some people who are not okay with the concept of a black Captain America. So I think that will be a concept. I'm from what I understand, a different iteration of Captain America is also going to be in this show. Possibly, a white man of similar proportions to Chris Evans, who may look like a better successor to some people to the Captain America mantle.
Is this like in the comics?
Yes.
That's pretty cool. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so it is. I think it will be a discussion on race. It will be a discussion on worth as well. Feelings of, am I worthy of this title? Am I worthy of this person's mantle? You know. So
there's like, I've never. When did Marvel movies get all deep, like, and actually like
they've always
intellectual?
Okay,
shit?
so I've felt since probably phase 2 of Marvel that they are deep thematically.
Yeah.
Which that's years ago. That's Iron Man 2 and Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and So I specifically Captain America, the Winter Soldier, I think hits very deep, very philosophical themes. About friendship, about all sorts of stuff, and I think they're stories about people, right? As much as they're superhumans for the most part, they're stories about people, and they're about their relationships and how they overcome adversity, and that's always going to be relatable, no matter what you put it into, and it's good now too because they're branching out away from. Unfortunately, and this has been dominant in superhero culture since superheroes were a thing. They are branching away from the standard strong, tall, white man superhero.
Yeah.
I
like that a lot.
You got all sorts of different people now, right? You got women.
I mean, I loved Captain Marvel. I saw that.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
It was an awesome movie. I thought it was really, really funny too.
So it's good, and they're not. sometimes you see the people doing these things for inclusion's sake, right? Like, oh, we're gonna make, this character be this because it's it's inclusive. The thing about the comic book world is these comic books and these characters were made by people who loved comic books, but they wanted to reflect themselves in this world now. Sam Wilson, the original Sam Wilson Captain America comic book strip, was written by a black man. Kamala Khan, who is coming as a show coming out called Miss Marvel, her comic book run, she's a
Did you say Kamala? It's Kamala.
No, well this one is Kamala, but
jokes.
Kamala Khan, she's a woman of Asian descent, I believe, or Middle Eastern descent. I believe it's Asian descent though. And she was written by a woman of Asian descent. So it's like in the comic book universe, it's not like inclusion. It's like, here are these characters that were written by these people who have these experiences and want to share them in the venue that is comic books and is superheroes.
And finally, like, the audience is ready to hear it in that sense.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that much about Marvel, but when was Captain America the story of worth in the society and do I deserve this role? And sounds like a better story to me.
Yeah. No, I mean, the original Captain America concept is mostly, you're a good man, you believe in the right things, right? And so we're going to give you superpowers because of that. This one, and I want to talk about that a little bit too, because people are all over the internet. Will Sam Wilson get the super serum? Will he become a superhuman? I fucking hope not. I hope that they don't kill the boy like that, because he is strong enough as it is, okay? He's a strong hero. He doesn't need no super serum to make him special, okay? That was one of my biggest complaints about Steve Rogers, is that when Iron Man says that line in the Avengers movie where he says, everything special about you came out of a bottle. Oh, that's fucking accurate. That's accurate.
Okay.
So I don't want my boy Sam Wilson to go through the same thing. Like, he should just learn how to use the shield with this current strength that he has. Anthony Mackie got fucking huge for this role. He's the biggest he's ever been in his life. He's massive right now. So I'm like
hyped.
I'm hyped.
There's energy.
Well, let's go watch it right now, Pete.
Yeah, we could almost watch. It's an hour until it comes out. So
out here slamming the table, out here banging things.
But I love Marvel. I'm hyped for this new show format. I can't wait for more of it, and I'll be giving updates and things. Also next week, I think I'm gonna talk about the Snyder Cut.
Nobody wants that,
because I just watched it. Super good. Might talk about it.
Nobody wants that.
I want it. And I'm creative director, so I do whatever I want.
Okay, no, let's put this on record. He ain't nothing.
If you keep creating positions, then hell, I guess you can.
I created your position, didn't I? Damn right I did.
I'm gonna stop you right there, Mr.
The only person I didn't create is this one right here.
We all direct ourselves.
Yeah, but I think that wraps.
That was a fun one. That was fun.
I'm
I like
actually
that.
chained to this table. I haven't left in months.
Yeah. No, I feed Tunny only once a day. He lives here in the garage.
It's a good way to get a good core workout. Nothing in it.
God. Yeah. I want to thank our crew. Thank you, Jack Tunney. Thank you, David Whitehead, for editing this when you're watching this. You don't watch this.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Brandon.
Yeah. I want to thank the sit rep guys.
Thanks, boys.
They really made me feel some hope today. I felt really good after that meeting.
Yeah. Came into this show feeling positive.
Yeah. I see the future, boys.
And the future is bright.
Yeah.
She's blinding.
All right. Peace out, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in.
We'll see you
Have
next
a good
week.
one.
Good night.
Goodbye. I just gotta be honest.
Oops.